this is what I have done so far. So I did the basics, right? I base coated the background in antique white, and all the gingerbread is base coated in honey brown. And then I went and I dry brushed sand. Okay, so everything's kind of the same until we got to the holly leaves. But I dry brushed it all sand, and then I painted the frosting for the holly leaves. Those were painted with Irish moss. Okay, and then I dry brushed a couple of them. I'm gonna demo on this one, but I dry brushed a couple of them with Snow White and Irish moss mixed, and then I put in some thermal green. Okay, so let's get started with that. I'm gonna demo first. I'm gonna work on, and hopefully we'll complete this entire leaf. Okay, the holly leaf. So like I said, honey brown, Irish moss, and then I took some Snow White and I just dabbed it with a little bit of Irish moss, and that was an easy one. Just to blend it a little bit on your dry brush. Now I didn't put all my paints out because it's really cold in my room and they keep drying up super quick. So anyways, I dipped and I made this pretty light. Okay, and I just dry brushed on that green right there. Okay, right in the center. Then I took some thermal. It's got to dry for a second. Now we can always add more later. Now to me that doesn't look quite bright enough, so I'm going to go back with a little bit of Snow White and just add a little bit more. Okay, so that can really pop now. And then I'm going to do a little bit of the thermal. Okay, so the thermal is just going to go, and it's kind of hard to see on the camera. Like I said, you can always add more later on, but just add a little bit of thermal green. You just really want that highlight to pop out. Okay, so then on the cookie itself, this is after we get the frosting on, we are going to take burnt sienna and we're gonna float around the cookie. Okay, on the cookie, but around the frosting with burnt sienna. Okay, and then we're going to deepen that. Now because this is a smaller piece, I'm going to use my it's a 1/4 inch angle. Okay, I like this brush for smaller areas, and you can really make these sharp edges. Okay, so I'm just going to start up here. So right next to the frosting, now you are probably going to have to go back like I do and clean up your antique white, which is fine, and it's going to be shaded around there anyway. So if you have some mishaps, it's fine. But you really want to get right next to your frosting with this burnt sienna. Okay, so we're going to go all the way around. Now pretty much all the cookies are done the same way. The only thing that's different is the frostings and the detail, but the cookie itself is all done like this. And if you just take it one step at a time, and I'm going to show you later on the instructions, to show you how I kind of laid things out to make it easier. All right, so we did that, and then I went ahead and I added a deeper float with dark chocolate, okay? This pattern, I did this about, gosh, 3 years ago, maybe longer. Can't quite remember. But I thought I'd bring it out now because, or kind of show it off a little more now, because gingerbread are pretty hot this year for Christmas. Okay. So see how this dark chocolate really deepens that float, or that shade rather, okay? And it's making your frosting stand out just a little bit more. Okay, so we're gonna get all around here. These are not the softest floats in the world because it's a small area and because it's a cookie, right? So it's gingerbread. I don't have to make it. It can look like it got a little overdone in some areas, but gingerbreads are typically kind of dark. Okay. So we did this. Now we have to add some highlights on the edges. So we're going to use sand for that, and we're just going to do the same thing and go around with the sand. Okay, so it's going to be the outside edge. This doesn't, well, see now that I got a little heavy. You don't want it so heavy to where it looks like it's kind of smeared on there. This is a highlight, not frosting. So I actually got a little heavy with that. So all I'm going to do is take a little mop brush and I'm going to push that away from the dark chocolate and soften it up just a tad, okay? And that's all right to do on all of it. I should probably blend out my sand a little bit more, and you're going to get a softer you're going to get a softer float. Sorry, my house got a little loud real quick and I told everybody to be quiet. Anyway, let's see. I'm gonna add it right there. Go around like this. So now your cookie, the cookie part is almost done. This is a good time also, you can clean up your edges a little bit. All right, so this is the cookie part, right? So we're done with that. Now we need to float the frosting. Okay, so that's done with Hauser Dark Green. Now this we want to make soft. I don't want it to look real harsh. Okay. So I'm just gonna add, I'm gonna really blend this out. Okay. So on the green frosting, we're just gonna float. Now here I'm going to use my mop brush a little bit too, because I want this to be soft. And see how that does it? You just have to soften up the edges, mop them out, and it becomes a lot softer looking. Okay. Then I'm not seeing my comments anymore. Oh, okay. There I am. Or there everybody is. It's hard to do two things at once. I'm looking at two different screens, but that's okay. So now, like I said, just mop it out. This piece isn't going to be done in an hour. There's just a lot of detail to it, but it's worth it in the end. I love detail. I love painting detail. You know, this is what I enjoy, and I hope everybody else does too. Okay, so here's starting to look like frosting. Now we're gonna take Tuscan Red and Snow White, and we're gonna do what I'm calling the piping. Okay, so you get a little bit of Tuscan Red. Now, it's piping, it's not, technically it's not line work. It's supposed to be that, looks a little thicker. Okay, but I am gonna use a liner brush. I'm just gonna load it pretty good with some paint. So I'm using a 5/0. And so the red, you just line it in, and it's okay that it's thicker. That's fine. Okay. And there's reasons why I added a lot of white to the cookies. Is we needed to make these colors pop because the gingerbread is dark, or it's on the dark side. All right, so let's get all these in here. So you just do it a little bit thicker. There's no crazy techniques on this piece. It's all the basic floating shading, float shading, highlighting, line work, dry brush. It's all kind of, you got a lot on one little cookie, right? Okay. So here you have the red, and I'm gonna dry this super quick with my handy dandy craft tool. It's called the Heat It. I'm sure everybody has one. I love it. Best thing ever. Okay. So now I'm going to add the white. Okay, so we're going to outline next to the red. We don't want to cover up all this dark chocolate shading that we did, right? Oops. Okay. So we want to go right up next to the red. Try to stay with the shape of the cookie. Okay. So just so if anybody wants to buy the pattern, I have it on my website, and I'll tell you, I really like this pattern the way I did it because I added a lot of pictures in the pattern for each step. So it's not all a guessing game just by looking at the picture. But on this one, I did it like that because there's a lot of steps, and you're going to benefit from those extra photographs in the instruction. I don't do that on all my patterns. I don't think I'd ever get anything out if I did that. Okay. So there's your white piping. Now, I know right now it looks like it's kind of just sitting, floating in air. But at the end of everything, we go back and we float shade all the cookies down so it looks like they're set down, they're set back. Okay. And, oh, hi, Linda Camp. It was nice to meet you at San Diego. Okay, so that's it for the cookie. Now we're gonna add sprinkles, okay? And they're Tuscan Red, Hauser Dark Green, and Snow White, okay? So I'm only gonna add a couple because once I do a couple, you guys will be fine. If you paint this, you'll see how to do it. So I'm gonna do one of each. So I got Tuscan Red, and I want it not super teeny tiny. I think on the original they were maybe different sizes, but and then I did Hauser Green, and I'm doing them away from each other because I want to show you how to float underneath each one. Okay, and then I did one with white. So you can do whatever size you want. If you do them a little bigger, you don't have to have as many. So I am gonna dry these super quick. So at least I can touch it if I have to. All right. Okay, so those are your little dots, or your sprinkles rather. And what I did after, I took thermal, and I took my liner brush, okay, and I took some thermal green, and I just touched the top of that Hauser Dark, see? So it adds a little sparkle, and I'm gonna do the same with the red. I'm gonna add, now I put on the instructions, it's fiery red, but I like that look of the pink one they have out in the neon color. I think it's sparkling pink. But this will do. And you're just gonna add it on here. Might not look like much now, but when this is all done, and I do this throughout the piece, you're gonna know that it's gonna pop, okay? So, that is that. Now, okay, so on this one, I float shaded under each sprinkle with Hauser Dark. So, and all that means, you got to use an angle brush, small, okay, and and it's almost like just a little C, like a C stroke. Usually you wait till they're all dry, but you're just gonna add just a little float underneath, and this will finish off your whole cookie, okay? So now I'm gonna raise it up so you guys can see it better. See how it looks like the sprinkles are sitting in the frosting, right? Okay. Now, this is it for that cookie, okay? We are gonna add berries, but that's at the end, and that's very, self-explanatory. I want to move on actually to the gingerbread girl, okay? She is kind of a lot of work, but not a lot of work. I mean, it's just a lot of detail, a lot of steps, and that's why I thought, well, probably be best to include that this part of it in the instruction or in the demo. Here, let me show you guys really quick. This is what I mean by on the instructions. So I have, where in the very beginning, how I dry brushed, right? And then I did a step-by-step for the holly leaf. There's more of a detailed on this one up here. And then I think I did another one. I'm trying not to be so disorganized. It doesn't always work. I forget where that other one was. Maybe that was it. But I think I have the Christmas tree on here too. But anyways, it gives you just kind of a guide as you're painting that you can look at where you're at in a certain section, okay? All right, so let's start the gingerbread girl. And she's on page 3 and 4. Okay, so I've already base coated her in the honey brown, and I need to dry brush her. I dry brushed all the others, but I wanted to show you in the demo what I'm going to do for the dry brushing. Okay, so, and I kind of use the same dry brushes all the time. I'm a creature of habit, I guess, but I enjoy using Jo Sonja's the Sure Touch Oval. I probably don't always use it the correct way because I tend to go up and down with my dry brushing, but these are ovals and you can actually do the side method. Let me get some sand. Oh, I think I have some out. Okay, so we're going to use a little bit of sand. Now, you can add more dry brushing, but I want it to be pretty soft. So I'm going to dry brush her face. And if you use a big enough dry brush, the softer it's going to be, okay? You don't want it harsh. So you're going to dry brush her face. If you need to add a little more paint, that's fine. You just don't want any harsh marks. Okay, and then we're going to do her hand area. And I just, you know what, you can kind of go across the whole thing because she's covered. Do you want to kind of keep it in the shape of what you're painting for any dry brushing? All right, I want to keep it in that shape. So this is like her little apron shape, right? Okay. And then the shoes, or I don't know if she has shoes on her feet. I'm gonna need a little bit more. Whoops, see now look at, I got way too much right there. But I'm just gonna leave it. Okay. So get all your dry brushing in on her. So I did this just for your benefit so you could see, but this would have been done in the very beginning of the instruction. Okay, so we're gonna work on that. And let's see. Okay, we're gonna float around her like we did with the other cookie. We're gonna use burnt sienna. And then we're gonna do dark chocolate. Okay. So let's see. You could actually use a little bit of a bigger brush because she's bigger, right? So we want it a little bit softer. I think I'm just going to use my let's see, this is a number 10 flat. You can use a 1/2 inch if you want. That might be a little big. You can continue on with your 1/4 inch. It doesn't matter for the smaller areas, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a little bit bigger of a brush. I'm going to do this in sections. So I'm going to start here, just go around the top of her head. Okay. Nice and soft. Oops. Okay, I'm going to stop right there for a minute because I want to go around her arms. So we're basically, just like we did on the other one, we're outlining the whole thing. Okay. Should probably keep my piece up so I could see what I'm doing, making sure I'm not missing anything.